The lab idea came from when I was sitting in class, and it was an environmental science class, and we were talking about sustainability, and of course it was a intro science class before you take your lab, and I was just thinking, why don't we have a sustainability lab? Because it seems like an important topic, and I didn't understand the transition of how I could be in that class and then take a lab that maybe didn't have anything to do with sustainability or didn't elaborate on the topic more. And I felt like it was one of the most important topics that you can talk about.
Absolutely.
And it seems to go unnoticed at the school and in the world in general. So
Absolutely. What makes you think that kids would really want to take this lab?
well, being a student, my personal experience is you kind of dread some of the gen eds, but you have to take them. And I personally dreaded the lab gen ed the most because it just seemed like an impossible task. 2 hours of doing something that you might not be comfortable with,
Right.
and maybe you won't use in the future. But it seems like sustainability is something that everyone should use, at some point in their future, no matter what their job is, no matter what kind of life they live or where they live. Sustainability follows you wherever you go in the world, whereas some other sciences that we cover here might not do that. And I feel like sustainability would appeal a lot to a more general crowd at this school, maybe some kids who don't really have that much of an interest in, say, physics or biology. So,
Absolutely. Okay. So, who would you choose as a professor to teach this class?
well, as a professor, I wouldn't go into specifics because I feel like a professor would not have a very hard time grasping this information. So I would obviously go with a field such as biology or the environmental sciences class that I was in. Dr. Shulchesky did a very good job about making us aware of sustainability and bringing the topic to light. And I think she felt like she wanted to elaborate on it more, but other topics that had to do with her class seemed to get in the way, and we kind of bumped on from it. And I was sitting there in class wanting to know more about it, but not being able to because the course material demanded that we go other places.
Right. What would be a possible final project for this class?
I would say a final project would obviously need to be something big. So students would need to brainstorm the entire semester, like we brainstorm on all our group projects in other classes. And it would have to be something to do with either cleaning up, with the UMW community, or maybe offering a solution to a large problem we have at school, such as maybe installing fluorescent light bulbs in all the buildings, or and they would have to obviously come up with the funding for that project. They would have to come up with what manpower would go towards the project, and the obvious questions that come with group projects.
No, absolutely. That's great. How would the typical 2-hour class period go for this lab?
Well, I'd say 2 hour class period. It would go like a normal lab would. You'd have maybe specific groups that you split up to in, and then you'd have a professor. You may start with a lecture for maybe the first hour, and then maybe a second hour would go into your groups would start brainstorming certain problems that we have on campus, and then I'd say once a week your class would sort of take a field trip, and you would you'd go to a specific spot on campus, or say you go down to the Rappahannock, and you would just look at problems that we have with the environment, and those field trips would be based around the group brainstorming in the
Right.
classes, and then the professor would obviously pick the one that interests them the most and plan that field trip. And then at say the end of the week they would go and look at the problem or solve the problem.
Sounds pretty cool. What would the labs consist of that? Is that how the labs would actually go?
I'd say the labs would be based around sustainability, and there would be, a general problem statement that would start off the lab, and then each group would figure out the best way to solve that problem. And and then it would either end with, say, a paper, some sort of written report, or sort of, it's just some type of report that answers the problem statement.
Absolutely. So this is a common question. Where would UMW get the funding from for this lab?
I think this would be definitely a big problem that would come up and sort of be a scapegoat that, say, some form of administration would take in order to shut, the lab down. But you can back out of anything by saying where's the funding going to come from, but where does the funding come for all the labs that we have here, the physics labs, the biology labs, and just classes in general. Sustainability is an important task that we need to take care of, and you can't just say where's the funding going to come from. Oh, you don't have any funding? Then I guess sustainability is not a problem. It is a problem, and we should be able to come up with some funds.
So would it just be focused more around the UMW community alone, or would you go out into the Fredericksburg area?
Well, I'd say that the UMW community is in the Fredericksburg community, so we are one big community, and it goes further out. It comes like a county problem, or some problems that in all would affect, every problem would have some effect on the world, and you can't solve the world problems right away, so you need to start out small. And we would start out small, and then we would go farther out. As our community started to clean up, our community would also branch out, and then we'd start cleaning up that community, and then it would branch out farther and farther.
That's great. So can you give us like a few examples of where some like sustainability issues are on this campus alone?
Yeah, I would say some of the big ones would be, obviously, the light bulbs that we have, or you'd have some of the insulation in some buildings. These being older buildings, 100 plus years old, they're not going to have the best insulation, so a lot of heat, a lot of air conditioning would escape. And also, I'd say a big one is what we were focusing on was recycling. And recycling is huge, and that just comes from, more recycling cans, less waste, more composition from the, taking the food from the UC, and making compost piles, stuff like that. I'd say just waste is a big problem in this community, from what I've gathered.
Okay, great. So that's it for the interview. Thank you for all of that information and all of your time.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.